Is it important for you to run a Bitcoin node? This is probably a question you have if you've just gotten into Bitcoin, but it might be a question you have if you've been into Bitcoin for years, because Bitcoin is built right now to be very easy to use if you don't run your own node. It's very easy to use a public node, somebody else's, a company's, your software wallet, your hardware wallet. They will provide a node for you. Now, there is benefits to running your own node, and this is what I want to explain in this video. In this video, I will explain why I think it's important to run your own node and what a Bitcoin node even is. So we'll get into that, but first, my name is Forrest Hodel. I'm a Bitcoin educator, and I do one-on-one coaching sessions for anybody who wants to learn more about Bitcoin, best practices, security, whatever questions you might have. You can reach out to me directly, send me an email, and there's a link in the description for that. So this is an article that I wrote and I put as sort of the intro to this course that I built on the Maple Bitcoin School community, and it's called The Importance of Running a Node. And I'm going to read it out word for word. It's not too long, and I'm going to explain, add my own commentary as well, and embellish a little bit where I feel need to, but let's just get into it. So the importance of running a Bitcoin node. What is a Bitcoin node? At its core, Bitcoin Core. A Bitcoin node is a computer program that connects to the Bitcoin peer-to-peer network. While there are different types of nodes, the most significant is the full node as opposed to the pruned node. A pruned node is a system of doing the entire initial blockchain download, but as you go along, as you validate the new blocks, you're deleting the old blocks. So you've gone through the entire blockchain, you have validated it all, you've matched it with the UTXO set, everything looks good. And then at the end of it, you might have only a few days worth of the history of the blockchain. Now, a pruned node is not really designed that well to be used with a lot of applications and things that are built on top of Bitcoin. People do still use pruned nodes to run like lightning channels or to mine with, but there's a little bit of added complexity with it. And Bitcoin has really been built and designed to run a full archival node, which means that you hold the entire Bitcoin blockchain in there. And the block size wars were basically fought at keeping that as small as possible so that you can run a full Bitcoin node at the lowest cost to do so. Whereas if you're making the blocks bigger, basically export the responsibility of validating and being honest with the blockchain to larger and larger users that can afford to run or choose to run this ever expanding large blockchain. So that is the massive trade-off, and Bitcoin has made the trade-off to make the blockchain as small as possible, make it as cheap and easy as possible for every single person to run a node, and then scale in layers. Because the reason you would want bigger blocks or faster blocks or what have you, different design of blockchain, is to have faster throughput and cheaper transactions. Bitcoin has made the choice to have the base layer settlement layer not optimized for that, but optimized for the ability for everyone to run a node, and then have additional second layers, second, third layers, whatever, that are for fast, easy, instant transactions, and they get settled on the Bitcoin blockchain at a certain point. That's a very large tangent for this article, but hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more of the history of why Bitcoin nodes are designed the way they are. A Bitcoin full node performs several vital functions. Number one, validation. It downloads and independently verifies every single transaction and block ever recorded on the Bitcoin blockchain, from the Genesis block to the latest one. This ensures that all transactions adhere to Bitcoin's consensus rules, e.g. correct signatures, unspent outputs, valid block structure. So that's the other thing it does right there, is it ensures that every transaction is legit. If you didn't do this, there could be illegit transactions in the blockchain in history. There could be Bitcoin that was made, there could be a bug that was exploited, and you wouldn't have any way of knowing that. So if any other organization out there, the next big Bitcoin thing, or what I'm talking about is cryptos and S coins, If they don't do this, there could be something wrong, and they have no idea of how to check that really. There's always trade-offs. Number 2, relaying. Once a transaction or block is validated, the full node relays it to other connected nodes, propagating the information across the network. Now, this is especially true if you have an inbound and outbound connected node. So you're downloading the blockchain from other nodes you're connected to, but you're also relaying that information to other nodes out there that are listening to you. So you have to have an inbound connection on your node. Number 3, storage. It maintains a complete and up-to-date copy of the entire Bitcoin blockchain. So the Bitcoin blockchain right now is about 700 gigabytes. And again, you could run a pruned node, but there's some big trade-offs to do so. And running a full node is still cheap enough to do, and still easy enough to do on relatively simple hardware. By performing these actions, a full node acts as an independent auditor, constantly checking the integrity of the network without relying on any third party. We have no idea if there's gold in Fort Knox. It needs to be audited. It would take years to audit. In reality, that gold would have to be melted down to fully see if it was truly gold or just, gold wrapped tungsten. But with Bitcoin, you can validate the entire Bitcoin blockchain. I run a mini PC that I bought for $300 Canadian. It takes 27 hours to download the entire blockchain, and it validates every single transaction that has ever happened, and any transaction I do gets validated, and every 10 minutes we are again auditing all the transactions that happen on the Bitcoin blockchain. And it's not just me doing it. You don't have to trust me and my node. There are thousands of nodes out there all doing this. And if you ran a node, you could validate it for yourself. You don't have to trust anybody else. That's a big part of running your own node, is not having to trust someone else. So here we go. How running a Bitcoin node benefits the individual. For the individual, operating a Bitcoin full node transforms their interaction with Bitcoin from one of trust to one of verifiable truth. Number 1, enhanced security and privacy. Trustless verification. This is the paramount benefit. Instead of trusting a third-party service like a wallet provider or exchange to tell you that your Bitcoin transaction is valid or that the blockchain is correct, your own node independently verifies everything. You are no longer susceptible to a third party lying to you or being compromised. So this is really important. This is super, super important. You have never used Bitcoin if you use somebody else's node, because they are using Bitcoin for you on your behalf, and you are trusting that what they're doing is legit. Now, you can verify by checking the source and checking multiple different node implementations that will visualize that for you, but each one of those you're trusting. Now, it's very tough to collude and all of that, but if you do it yourself, you eliminate the trust aspect. And that might be a little bit of a problem of currently how Bitcoin is operating, is that a lot of people are able to just trust other people to run nodes on their behalf. Greater privacy. When you use a third-party wallet, your IP address and transaction requests are often linked to their servers. Running your own node allows your wallet to connect directly to your node, obscuring your activity from external observers and enhancing your privacy. Now, there's a little bit of nuance here that I didn't include, but a lot of these other, if you use like BlockStream Green, for instance, you can enable Tor. You can route your traffic through Tor, which will prevent them from understanding and having a connection to your IP address. They're also supposed to delete your logs after a while, so they might not have sort of your information. But again, there's a lot of trust with that. Now, if you run your own node, your ISP might have the ability to peer on you and look at you as well, your internet service provider. So you'll probably want to protect that again through using something like Tor. If you're running your own node, Start9 uses Tor just natively. I think Umbrel does as well. And then that will have that sort of greater privacy. Plus, you're not trusting that that node operator to not have your transaction history and everything. 2, true control and sovereignty. Financial independence. A Bitcoin node embodies financial sovereignty. It means you are truly in control of your funds and your connection to the network. You don't need permission from anyone to transact, and no one can censor your transactions. This is a permissionless, censorship-resistant network. you can fully actually independently use it that way if you run a node and validate your own transactions. Direct network interaction. Your wallet connects directly to your node, providing the most direct and unfiltered view of the Bitcoin network. You are not relying on a potentially filtered or delayed view provided by an intermediary. This is like a minor issue, but there might be a delay with your own node as well. That's not necessarily true, but again, I just felt it was necessary to put in because we're looking at every single possible benefit to running your own node here. 3, faster and more reliable transactions, immediate broadcasting. When you send a transaction through your own node, it is broadcast directly to the network without any intermediaries, potentially leading to faster propagation and confirmation. This is potentially, again, right? There's a little bit of nuance with all of this, except the one, basically, the financial independence and your ability to have a trustless verification. The rest have slight nuance and slight variance in how accurate they'll be from source to, or like from usage to usage. Reliable information. Your node provides you with the most accurate and up-to-date information about the network state, including unconfirmed transactions and block heights directly from the source. Now with this as well, I should put, actually I maybe make an amendment here and add in the fact that you can configure your Bitcoin node at the policy level the way that you want to. So if you wanted to hold in your own mempool certain transactions or exclude certain transactions, you could do so. So you have some control over the flexible layer of the Bitcoin network, which is the mempool policy. 4, contributing to the network indirectly. Now this is probably one of the main reasons people think they should run a node, but we'll explain it a little bit. And I would say that all of these other reasons are paramount. You need to think about yourself and your own incentives, and the network kind of works itself out because those incentives are already there for the individual. While the primary benefits are personal, by running a node, you're inherently contributing to the network's health, which in turn benefits you as a user. How running a Bitcoin node benefits the network. The collective action of individuals running Bitcoin nodes is what makes the network robust, secure, and truly decentralized. Number 1, decentralization and censorship resistance. No single point of failure. Every full node is an independent verification point. The more nodes there are, the more distributed the network becomes, making it incredibly difficult for any single entity, government, corporation, or malicious actor to control, censor, or shut down the network. This is incredibly important. If there was the Bitcoin network and there was one node running, if somebody went over and unplugged that computer or destroyed it or pointed something at you and said, hey, destroy your node, that network would cease to exist. If there's 2, now somebody has to collude and they have to shut that down near the same time, right? They have to shut one down and the other one down, and now there's no network. Now, if there's thousands of computers all over the world, all with the exact same record of the blockchain, all showing this transaction is valid, this UTXO is valid, this address is valid, and it holds this much Bitcoin in it, there's no way that you can shut all of these computers down. There has to be a massive coordinated effort amongst governments, amongst corporations, amongst all sorts of entities to shut down every single computer, basically shut down the whole internet. And if that happened, there would be way bigger problems, but also it wouldn't destroy the blockchain. And as soon as the internet came back on, people would turn their devices back on and the Bitcoin network would continue. There's people with the Bitcoin blockchain wrapped in Faraday cages that would protect it against global EMP, all sorts of stuff, right? So the Bitcoin network, by having all of these nodes around the world, has actually made it incredibly secure. So the more decentralized it is, the more people running nodes, the more secure it is based on those sort of physical attack vectors. But it's sufficiently secure at this point. So it's sort of like some people will say, oh, running a node doesn't matter, right? I would say every single node that comes on board has less and less of an effect of the decentralization sort of impact of running their node. And therefore, your main incentive should be the personal reasons, and the decentralization of the network is a secondary reason. Resistance to attack. A highly decentralized network with many independent nodes is far more resilient to attacks, as an attacker would need to compromise a vast number of geographically dispersed computers simultaneously. Exactly what I explained there, but much more concise. 2, network security and integrity. Enforcement of rules. Full nodes are the police of the Bitcoin network. They enforce the consensus rules, ensuring that only valid transactions and blocks are accepted and relayed. If a miner tries to create an invalid block or a user tries to spend coins they don't have, full nodes will reject it, protecting the integrity of the entire system. They set the rules. The miners even have to obey the rules that the nodes set. The nodes are setting all of the rules of who owns what and what Bitcoin is, and the miners are slaves to that. They cannot change that on their own. Basically, the vast majority of nodes have to agree to change and to update the software for Bitcoin to actually change in any meaningful way. Number 3, network resilience and stability. Redundancy. If some nodes go offline, the network continues to function seamlessly because thousands of other nodes are still online and relaying data. This redundancy ensures a high availability and stability. Data availability. Each full node stores a complete copy of the blockchain, ensuring that the historical record of all transactions is widely distributed and accessible even if some nodes fail. Now, this is important because your node, when you run it and it has the blockchain, will connect to other peers, and those peers will download the Bitcoin blockchain from you. So if you have really good internet, depending on where you're located, you might be a really good resource for that initial blockchain download if a peer connects to you. So that could be possibly important. So those are the reasons to run a node. Now let's get into how you might run a node. I have a full series on how to run a node on your own personal server. I have a couple of videos showing you how to run a node on your computer that you're probably watching this with. And those are the 2 easiest ways to run nodes, in my opinion. I also have a 5% discount link if you want to just buy a plug and play node, the best plug and play node in my opinion, which is from Start9. And there's a 5% discount link, description, it's BNC. So here we go, different ways to run a Bitcoin node. Running a Bitcoin node might sound daunting, but there are several accessible methods, each with varying levels of technical complexity and convenience. Number 1, on your personal computer. The simplest way to get started is by downloading and installing the Bitcoin Core or NOTS software directly onto your desktop or laptop computer. This method is straightforward for many users, but it requires significant storage space, currently over 700 gigabytes and growing, and a stable internet connection. Your computer will need to be running most of the time for your node to be consistently active on the network. This probably needs to be done with an SSD, a solid state drive. That's going to be a bottleneck. Any single part of your hardware and your bandwidth might be bottlenecks. If you have a small amount of RAM, that might be the bottleneck. Your CPU might be the bottleneck. Your bandwidth might be the bottleneck. Your hard drive is probably going to be your bottleneck to begin with. So SSD is a good way to start. 16 gigs of RAM would be nice, at least, so that you can write things really quickly from the RAM. The other thing here too, the last sentence, your computer will need to be running most of the time. So if you wanted to always be connected to the Bitcoin network, if you wanted to constantly be updating every 10 minutes when there's a new block hit, you will keep your Bitcoin node running on that computer. Now, if you didn't, and you wanted to use Bitcoin and your computer's been off for a little while, you would need to start up Bitcoin and you would allow it to catch up to the current state. So it would download all of the new blocks that it hasn't, that it doesn't have. So you might know that you're going to send a transaction in a couple hours, so you might turn your computer on beforehand. Make sure that your Bitcoin node is all synced up. So 2 and 3 are my personal favorite ways to do it. Number 1 is sort of a way to get started and dip your toes into this whole thing. But number 2 here and number 3 are my favorite ways. So dedicated node appliances, Umbrel, and Start9. For those who prefer a more plug-and-play experience, dedicated node appliances offer a user-friendly solution. Projects like Umbrel and Start9 provide pre-built operating systems and software stacks designed specifically for running a Bitcoin node and often other decentralized applications. These typically come with a simple web interface, making it easy to set up and manage your node without deep technical knowledge. A lot is done for you in this, right? And I love Start9 and Umbrel. I think they're really good ways of running a node, and you can simply install Bitcoin. You can simply install a Lightning node. You'll probably need some tutorials and some guidance to get everything fully running and optimized the way you want, but it's click of a button to install these things. You don't need to know compiling for if you're running Linux. You don't have sort of interoperability issues if you're running Windows, or you're on a ClearNet when you want to be running Tor, and it's just hard to configure and all of this. It's already a lot of it is done for you when you buy one of these plug and play models. Number 3, DIY with a mini PC or Raspberry Pi. I would say personally, I would avoid the Raspberry Pi. They're just a very small, basic computer, and probably you're going to not be as future-proof as you'd like to be with a Raspberry Pi. Mini PCs, however, you can get a decent one, and it's all just already kind of put together. You can get an SSD in there, you can get the RAM you need, and you can just flash an operating system on there that works for you. So let's go into what I've written. And a popular and cost-effective method is to build your own dedicated node using a mini PC or a Raspberry Pi. This approach offers more flexibility and control than off-the-shelf appliances, allowing you to choose your hardware components and software setup. It requires a bit more technical know-how for initial setup, including installing an operating system. Examples: Linux or StartOS. I have a full series of the StartOS. StartOS is definitely the way I would go with that. And then a Bitcoin node implementation like Core or Knots, but there are numerous guides and communities to assist. The method provides a dedicated low power solution that can run 24/7 without impacting your main computer's performance. In conclusion, running a Bitcoin node is more than just a technical exercise. It's an act of participation that strengthens the very foundations of the Bitcoin network. For the individual, it offers unparalleled security, privacy, and true financial sovereignty. For the network, it ensures decentralization, integrity, and resilience against attacks. In a world where trust in centralized entities is increasingly questioned, running your own Bitcoin node is a powerful statement of self-reliance and a vital contribution to a more robust and free financial future. This is 100% what I think. I think that everybody should have the ambition to run their own node. I know that for some people, it will technically be out of their reach. Maybe it'll be out of reach financially, or maybe you don't have the stability to be able to run a node in whatever way. But I think it should be a goal for every Bitcoiner. Once they've hit some stacking goal of Bitcoin held in self-custody, it should be a goal to learn how to run a node. I think you can run a node very cheaply on your own computer. I think taking the step to do it DIY, the guide, just follow it step by step. I think if that feels too daunting to you and you have the capital to do so, a plug and play model like the Start9 would be the way to go. So hopefully this helped you understand what a Bitcoin node is and why I believe that it's important for you to run a node. I would not listen to the people out there that pretend that running a node doesn't mean anything. I think it's part of what makes Bitcoin Bitcoin, the ability for the individual user to run a node. If you're in any other crypto sphere, running a node is never talked about. It's not important. That ethos of that crypto, the community, does not have that as a central pillar where Bitcoin does. And that is what makes Bitcoin so valuable. It is the decentralized and secure nature, and the speed is secondary to that, and it can happen on additional layers with additional trade-offs. There's always going to be trade-offs, but you'd have that trade-off on that layer as opposed to having it on the final settlement, absolutely secure network that is Bitcoin. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Bitcoin Not Crypto.